Hello friends. Welcome to Fictional Vortex. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was Prince of the Night and the Son of Dragon of the Moon and Night. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. X464. A beautiful red-haired woman leapt over a fallen log, a bundle clutched to her chest. The woman's name is Kushina Uzumaki, a newly made mother. One might ask, why was she running through the woods not even 24 hours after giving birth? The answer is a tragic one. Our village had been attacked by a dark guild. Not just any dark guild, but one of the first guilds created, Tartarus. There was no reason, no motivation for the brutal slaughter, for what else could one call it, of her village. The village itself was small, barely 200 people, and only a fifth of them knew any magic, herself and her husband included. She almost stumbled as she thought of her husband, Minato Namikaze. When the attack had started, nearly an hour after her son was born, Minato had grabbed the two and took them to the edge of the forest with his teleportation magic and told her to run before going back to fight the demonic guild. Tears burned her eyes as she knew, deep in her heart, that her husband was dead. As she neared the base of a mountain that lay a few miles away from where her village once stood, she came across a clearing with a few stumps of fallen trees in the center. Panting, she went over to one and sat down, gently rocking the bundle still clutched to her chest. Pulling the bundle away, it revealed a newborn baby that had rosy red cheeks adorned with 3 whisker marks apiece, a small crop of blonde hair, and if his eyes were awake, they'd show to be crystal blue. Kushina smiled sadly down at her son before giving a violent cough, flecks of blood escaping from her mouth. The reason for this was the gaping wound on her back that was inflicted on her by some shrapnel when one of the dark mages blew up a building she was near before she could flee the village. That, coupled with the hours of running and the fact she was further weakened by having recently given birth. Kushina knew her time was short, but she held on for her son's sake. Suddenly, a rumbling shook the clearing, causing Kushina to look up fearfully, thinking that on top of everything else, an earthquake was occurring. A bright light, along with the smell of sulfur and brimstone, suddenly came from the other side of the clearing, and both grew stronger and stronger as the earthquakes increased in intensity. The surrounding trees were suddenly pushed to the side, and the amazing sight of a dragon that was black as night and with wings that sparkled like 1,000 stars. She was a beautiful sight if she ever saw one. She fell, feeling her life slip away, and she slid the child she carried towards the dragon with a smile. She didn't know why she did it, but she had a feeling this dragon would do her the favor of protecting her baby boy. She gave a smile. "Take care of Naruto," she said, and then the last of her life faded away. The dragon in question has a forked, black tongue with black scales with silverish purple underbelly, scales with silver teardrop scales by the corners of her eyes. The sun picked up glints of purple and deep blue on her body. She has dark green eyes. The underside of her wings are black and speckled with silver scales, giving it the appearance of a night sky filled with twinkling stars, allowing her to fly at night without detection. Dragon looked at the child and sniffed him. He had a large pool of magic in his body, so he would be a powerful wizard one day. Gently picking the small bundle in her hand, she nodded to the woman she opened her wings and took off, making sure to leave the sleeping child undisturbed. It took 10 minutes to reach her cave and get inside. She was tired during the day, weaker but not beatable. She knew with the war going on she wouldn't have time to train her newfound charge, but that didn't mean she didn't have a plan in mind. After all, Zirf had proposed she find a child to train in her magic. And it seems that she found the perfect candidate for the Eclipse plan. July 7, X777. Naruto gave a stretch as he woke up to a new day. He was excited to learn more enchantments from his mother, he was already very good with them, as his mother had said. His enchantments weren't like that of the sky dragon Grandini's were. His were based upon his power over the moon and night, which in turn gave him his power. However, that doesn't mean he doesn't know the enchantments to improve one's power in the heat of battle. However, this was the day where everything would change for him, and he would begin his journey into the world of wizardry. He would find adventure and love with some great friends by his side. He looked around to see if his mother was up. However, when he didn't see her, he grew confused. Mariga was always in the cave, so where was she? He walked out of the cave and cupped his hands over his mouth. Mariga. He called out loudly, listening as his voice echoed loudly. He did it again. Mariga, where are you? He yelled out loudly. Now he was getting a little scared. His mother always called back that she was near, so why wasn't she replying to him? He ran back in the cave, hoping to see if she was there trying to prank him. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he searched, he didn't see hide nor scale of his mother in the cave. So when he couldn't find her in the cave, he ran back out and looked to the sky with tears in his eyes. Mom, where are you? Come back, I need you. He cried out, hoping his mother would hear him. Where did she go, and why didn't she take him with her? This thought process in turn made him angry at his mother, and Naruto growled, Why, Mom? Why'd you go, and why didn't you take me? He yelled out. Why would Mariga just suddenly leave and not take him? He was her dragon slayer, so she had to take him with her to teach him the ways of being a dragon slayer, but she wasn't here as he was. Now all alone now, he looked to the tree line and began running, not caring where he went so long as he found his mother. He would find her. No, she's not gone. She'd never leave me, not on purpose, he said as he continued to run through the forest in search of his mother. On and on he ran throughout the whole day. He eventually had to stop as he ran out of energy and it was nighttime. His mother always expressed the need for sleep, and so he made a small campfire to keep him warm, as his mother wasn't there to keep him warm with her scales. Sitting near the fire, he looked to the flames as if consoling them and made a vow. I'll find her, one of these days, he said with a fire in his eyes. December 15th, X 777. He didn't know why he had found himself here, only that he felt drawn to this location for some reason. With nothing else on the mind, he pushed the doors open and walked in. He took a quick glance over the room, noting the largely wooden interior and bright colors that decorated what seemed like some kind of food hall. The atmosphere was quite warm, if a bit loud, and were it not daytime he probably would have had better appreciation for the familial feel about the room. As it was, he was only grateful he wasn't standing outside anymore. It really did make a difference. Looking over the room a second time in search of someone to ask for the guild's master, he spotted a boy who he guessed was about 2 years older than himself sitting at the bar. There were other kids younger than himself, but he didn't figure they'd be much help in this situation. Twirling a piece of hair between his fingers, he slouched over to the boy, his bare feet not making a sound on the floor. He slid into the seat next to the boy and raised a hand. Yo, he said to the teen. The blonde-haired teen nearly jumped out of his skin at the sound of the unfamiliar voice next to him. Spinning round in his seat, he took note of the pale boy sitting next to him. He then realized that the boy was dressed rather oddly, given that he was missing his shirt and his shoes. Never mind the odd way he'd wrapped material round the bottom of his pants. Hi, he greeted hesitantly. The boy looked back at him after the returned greeting, though he continued to fiddle with his hair. Can you tell me where I can find that master of this place? He asked. Laxus raised an eyebrow. What does this kid want with the old man? Maybe he wanted to join, but just to be sure. Why, you interested in joining? He asked the younger teen. Yeah, he replied quite simply. Oh, a newcomer is it? Said a voice behind them. Twirling round in his seat, he came face to face with one of the shortest men he had ever seen. To be fair to the old man, he hadn't seen too many people in his life, but still. Even he was aware the man was tiny. Naruto was surprised, though, that he hadn't felt the man approach. He had good senses, something being a dragon slayer had granted him. To be unable to detect him was odd. He blinked at him several times. Are you aware that you are an incredibly short man? He asked the old man. The guild master nearly fell off the bar. Yes, I'm aware. You think I lived my whole life being unaware of it? He yelled at the pale blonde teenager. Well, if you'd grown up in a village where everyone was the same height as you and no one else ever visited, then yes, I would assume you were unaware of your situation, he said as he looked at the man on the bar. Are you saying that just to mess with me, or do you seriously think that? He asked as he took another swing of alcohol from his bottle. Both, was the deadpan reply. They stared at each other for several seconds until the old man laughed. Laxus shook his head, though a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Clearly the teen didn't know who he was talking to. He might be relaxed with his grandfather now. But if actually who he was, he'd no doubt turn into another awe-inspired little fanboy. Well, maybe fanboy was a bit harsh of him. The kid didn't look the type, but he was sure he'd be awe-inspired anyway. "What's your name, kid?" his grandfather asked after he stopped laughing. "Naruto Uzumaki, at your service," the pale teen replied after a moment's hesitation. "You?" he asked in return. "Here it comes," thought Laxus. "Makarov Drayar," he replied, giving the youth a big grin. The boy accepted the name with a nod. Nothing, not even a twitch to indicate he's familiar with the name. Has this kid been living under a rock? Laxus mentally exclaimed. "I'm also the guild master here," he added after taking several long gulps of his drink. Just what was wrong with this kid? Now that knowledge certainly got the boy's attention. The hand that had been twirling his hair froze and he looked at Makarov with a raised brow, now knowing how he'd snuck up on him. "Are you being serious or just saying that to mess with me?" he asked the old man. Makarov chucked the wooden tankard at him. Ducking to the side, Naruto grinned. "So, you were being serious," he joked. The old man jumped to his feet. "Yes, I was being serious," he exclaimed to the brat. Even Laxus laughed then. However, his laughter and the guild master's shouting was enough to attract the attention of the guild members, the younger ones mostly. The older ones decided it would be best to stay out of it and find out later on. Ultimately they were just too lazy to get up and ask. A girl with red hair and a place 8 of chest armor on looked up from the table she was sitting at when she heard the laughter. It wasn't too often something got Laxus laughing. She frowned, wondering what caused it. That is, until she noticed something she'd completely overlooked. There was a boy sitting next to him. How she'd managed to completely overlook him was something she couldn't understand. He appeared to be about a year or two older than her, with a long lean build, though it was clear he was in the middle of a growth spurt. His chest and feet were completely bare, leaving him in only a pair of pants. She shuddered and prayed he wasn't another Gray. She wasn't sure she could handle another stripper. Standing up from her lone spot at the table, she made to walk over to the master, only to find her pathway blocked. Mid-walk by none other than the stripping boy she'd been thinking about only moments earlier. "Gray, master," he shouted. "Who's the half-naked kid?" he demanded. Urza raised a brow. Like he's one to talk, she thought. And he really shouldn't talk to the master that way. Raising a hand, she smacked him on the head from behind, sending him flying into the wall. Such uncouth behavior needed to be worked with. Catching her movement, the pale boy immediately turned his head towards her and stared for several moments with an odd look on his face. She was unaware he'd been surprised by her similar appearance to his human mother. Especially the hair. However, he seemed to become aware of the fact that he was staring and gave her a grin in apology. "What are you smiling about?" she asked, feeling a bit indignant over his odd reaction. There weren't many people who would smile about one child sending another flying into a wall, and she was pretty sure most of them were in fairy tale. "Nothing really. You just reminded me of my mother for a moment," he replied, not that she knew he was referring to both. One for the hair color and the other for her violent streak. The redhead gave him a look somewhere between a scowl and confusion before turning her attention back to Makarov. "Master, who's the stranger?" she asked politely. "He said his name's Naruto. Seems interested in joining the guild." Makarov replied. She turned her attention back to boy, who now had his head resting on the bar and seemed much more interested in fiddling with his hair than anything they were talking about. Frowning, she turned her attention back to Makarov. "Are you going to let him, master?" she asked him curiously. The old man shrugged and chugged back some more the drink in his tankard before replying, "I see no reason not to," he told the redhead. "Shouldn't you test his power first?" asked Gray, having recovered from his Urza-induced wall slam. Makarov raised a brow. "Did you or Urza have to?" he retorted to the stripper. "No, master," replied Gray sulkily, folding his arms. "He just wanted to see the guy's magic. Was that so bad?" "He doesn't have to anyway. He can probably sense my magic." "T's a skill most mages put in the effort to learn, especially powerful ones," said Naruto from his slouched position. "Which is probably why he didn't test either of you when you joined the guild," he said. "Oh," said Gray, feeling surprised. The teen's answer made sense though. Makarov never tested anyone's magic when they entered the guild, seeming to just know their magical power and even some of their abilities. He must be good at this sense thingy, thought Gray. Kana, shouted Makarov, nearly scaring Gray out his last piece of clothing. A small girl with brown curls hanging either side her face looked up from the cards she was busy placing on the table to scan the room. Finding Makarov, the source of the shout, she quickly shuffled her cards back together and hurried over, smoothing out the invisible creases on her orange dress. Master, she inquired once she'd reached them, her gaze shifting occasionally to the newcomer among them. Can you get the guild stamp for me? He asked. Her eyebrows rose as she nodded. Taking one last look at the pale boy relaxing with his head on the bar before heading off to find the stamp. Quickly locating it, she headed back over, rubber stamp clasped in her hand. Unfortunately for Gray, she arrived just in time to stop Naruto answering his question about what kind of magic he used. Urza had also been interested in hearing the answer, though she'd never admit it. And found herself having to resist challenging Kana to a fight. She would have punished the girl from preventing her receiving the answer. Here, master, said the dark-haired girl with a smile. He looked at the guild stamp in Kana's hands for a moment before looking back at the girl and giving her a smile. Why don't you do it, Kana? He told the girl with a smile. Me? She asked in surprise. Sure, anyone with the fairy tale mark is capable of marking another with the stamp, he explained. Oh, okay, she murmured, turning to face the pale newcomer. So, where would you like it? She asked him. Like what? He asked, lifting his head up and rubbing his eyes. Kana frowned in confusion. Your stamp, weren't you listening? She asked. Not really, he replied, playing with a piece of hair close to his eyes. Oh, he had been listening, but it was better they thought he hadn't been. That way at a later stage he was more likely to overhear people saying things without paying him much attention. Noticing Urza looked like she was about to turn her wrath on the teen, she quickly intervened with an explanation. Your official guild mark, everyone who joins a guild receives a mark to show they are a member of that guild, she told the kid. He thought about it for a bit before nodding and turning round. Right shoulder blade on my back, he told Kana. Color? She asked him. You can pick that, he asked, spinning back round on his stool. She nodded. Oh, I'll take black anyway, he replied, starting to spin round before stopping, seeming to realize something. Hopping off the stool, he gave Kana a quick smile and knelt down so she could have easier access to his back. Thanks, she muttered before marking his back with the official insignia. It glowed and shimmered briefly before settling on his back. Waiting for a few more seconds, Naruto stood back up, giving the smaller girl a grin before settling back on the bar, his head resting on it sleepily. He doesn't seem particularly excited about it, said Urza as she looked at the tall boy. Seems pretty tired to me, replied Laxus. Probably too exhausted to show much enthusiasm, he said, scratching his head. Though they'd soon learn his attitude wasn't a one-time thing. As soon as the sun's last rays disappeared beyond the horizon, Naruto felt it. Like his spirit that had previously been chained was free from the constraints the sun put upon it. Shaking his limbs, to free them from the last straggles of fatigue, he jumped to his feet. Energy now flowing through his veins. All right, mission time, he said with a grin. Going on a mission? Asked Laxus as he walked past. Well, yeah, he replied with nod. Want some company? The older teen asked him. Naruto paused and thought about it for a moment before shaking his head. No thanks, I'm fine, he replied to the older blonde. Laxus shrugged, not really caring. Sure, but before you go, there's probably someone you should meet, he said to Naruto. Oh, who? He asked Laxus with a chuckle. We got a new member today, while you were sleeping. Laxus paused for a moment. Should he? Nah, he looked at Laxus and shrugged. I'll meet them when I come back, he told Laxus. You sure? Could be someone interesting, he said jokingly. Naruto waved him off. He could hear the hinting tone in Laxus's voice, but didn't care to pay it too much attention. He could meet them when he came back. Easily enough. It wasn't like they'd just wander off and join a new guild while he was gone. Besides, he had too much to do, or at least he would when he picked out a mission from the board. Then he had to go and do the mission. After which he could get down to some training. If it wasn't for the fact that he needed money to survive, he wouldn't even bother doing missions and would just continue his training constantly. He was so close to perfecting the Dragon Force state he could practically taste it. Unfortunately, perfection remained elusively out of his grasp. He would find the secret to the almighty Dragon Force on his own someday. Without further thought, he grabbed a flyer and read the contents and left to do the job. The moment Naruto walked into the guild, he was attacked. Although, a better description would be that someone attempted to attack him. Someone with pink hair who wasn't even tall enough to reach his shoulder. Perhaps not even his chest. Someone that charged him with a loud yell. "Fight me!" the voice cried as he jumped with a fistful of fire at the blonde. Reacting instinctively, Naruto stepped lightly to the side, letting the boy fall past him before slamming his leg into the boy's back, sending him flying into the hard wooden doors. Blinking rapidly at the odd happening, Naruto watched the strange human slowly peel himself off the door, leaving a remarkable large indent behind in his place. Turning round to face the rest of the guild who were staring at the scene, he raised a brow and asked, "What just happened?" he asked, confused at the situation. Before anyone could respond to the question, the pink-haired boy jumped back to his feet, seemingly recovered from his body-to-door encounter. He jumped into what Naruto guessed to be some sort of loose fighting stance and started bouncing up and down on his toes, his body brimming with energy. "Fight me," he once again declared. Naruto furrowed his brow. "Why do you want to fight me, little girl?" he asked the kid. Natsu froze where he stood. The punk had just called him a girl. He was unfortunately unaware that Naruto had trouble differentiating between boys and girls when they were young. "I'm a boy," he shouted, swinging once again at Naruto's face and once again missing. "But, your hair is pink," Naruto pointed out most obviously. "So, what's that got to do with it?" Natsu yelled out. Naruto reached up to twirl a piece of hair with a confused look on his face. "Kana said that pink is a girl's color," he told the kid. The girl in question quickly hid behind the bar. She did not want her new pink-haired guild member to take it out on her. It wasn't her fault, honestly. She'd just noticed Naruto had trouble telling the difference between them. Apparently he'd had an odd upbringing. So, she'd decided to help in her own way, being explaining clothing, hair length and colors normally associated with each. While Natsu certainly dressed like a boy and had short hair, it was undeniably pink, which she'd said to Naruto was a clear indicator the person was a girl. She damned her helpful nature. The small boy stared at Naruto in shock for several moments before sprinting away from him, fists still blazing, screaming for Kana to come out from wherever she was hiding. Naruto wasn't sure how safe that was inside a wooden structure, but ignored it. At least the kid wasn't badgering him anymore. The boy was just lucky it was afternoon and not midday. Shaking his head in disbelief, Naruto moved over to bar and slid into a stool next to Laxus, still feeling slightly dazed by the odd greeting. He turned to face the taller boy. "I take it that is the new guild member you wanted me to meet?" he asked. "Oh yeah," he replied with a grin, a teasingly lilt still in his voice. "Notice anything odd about him?" he asked Naruto. "Other than the fact that he attacked me and acts like an idiot?" Naruto asked Laxus. Laxus nodded. "He's extremely loud and will probably be the cause of many headaches in the future. Other than that, well, he did feel kind of familiar. You know, like I should know him or I've met him before, even if I'm quite sure I haven't. I am sure Ka-san mentioned something about it, but for the life of me I just can't remember what," he murmured as he fiddled with his hair in thought. Laxus grinned. "This was going to be good. He claims to be a dragon slayer," Laxus said with a grin. Naruto paused for a moment to consider his words, and to get over the surprise of meeting another dragon slayer so suddenly, before nodding his head. "Mariga did mention something like that," he said in a thoughtful tone. He had actually forgotten about that. "If you want the truth." Laxus leaned against the bar. "So how was the job?" the older teen asked him. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. "It was a monster extermination, so it was fairly normal for me to do," he replied to the older blonde. "Wasn't all that hard to do either, as it was just forest Vulcans." He then thought of something. He had no place to stay for when he wasn't working, and he looked to Laxus. "Oi Laxus, are there any apartments nearby that I can rent?" he asked the teen. Laxus nodded his head. Yeah, there are several up for rent. Why? The teen asked. Naruto gave him a deadpan look. What do you think? Naruto asked sarcastically. It then clicked in Laxus's head. Oh, right. The teen said before he motioned for Naruto to follow him. He felt like he'd seen 100 apartments. He knew it hadn't been that many, but it sure felt like it. It wasn't like he searched for fault with every apartment he looked at. It was more like the faults were thrown in his face. All of them had some kind of problem, from the location to the money to the size. He just couldn't find the right one. But now, finally now, he had found one that seemed just right. He didn't want to say it out loud in case he jinxed it or something, but he thought it might be the one. He didn't want to sound like a lovesick fool either. But the place seemed perfect for him. A small one-bedroom apartment near enough to fairy tale for a civilian to walk it in about 10 minutes. It wasn't overly large for certain, but it was big enough for him. A small kitchen, living room and a clean bathroom. It was also built in one of the newer buildings in town, which meant it hadn't been lived in much before. Straining the grin he felt like giving the landlord, he checked round the place once more to make sure nothing was wrong with it. Other than the fact that it was largely unfurnished, there didn't seem to be a problem. The walls were painted a nice pale cream, the floors a light wood color, and there didn't seem to be any sort of holes or infestation in the walls or ceiling. It was also a pretty decently priced. He'd only be renting, but that wasn't a problem. He was hoping to get a house when he eventually built up the money, or when he made S-class. Then he'd be able to consistently take higher paying missions. He doubted he'd easily find a mission that paid as well as the one he'd just been on. Spinning round to face the landlord, he finally allowed himself to grin. "I'll take it," he said with a nod. His landlord, however, left much to be desired. The short man with hardly any hair on his head and an oddly shaped face that made Naruto think of salmon seemed unable to be incapable of smiling. His face set in a sullen frown full of disdain. "I don't accept any late payments, got it? I want that 80,000 jewels by the end of every month, and if I don't get it, you're out. I won't accept anything less, mage," he finished with venom. Naruto raised a brow. Clearly the man had something against mages. He hadn't a clue what, but it was obvious the man wasn't going to suddenly turn into a fan of his at any rate. Sighing and automatically reaching up to tug on one of his shaggy locks, he nodded. "Right," Naruto said to the man. "And I expect your first payment now," he said with a hand held out. Not wanting to give away how much money he had on hand, Naruto waved him off. "I'll come by your desk later. Is that fine?" he asked. The man looked like he wanted to argue, but gave up and nodded. The boy wasn't going against what he asked after all. But he was feeling slightly dubious about the whole thing. For one, the boy didn't look older than 14, he could perhaps push for a young-looking 15-year-old. But the man doubted it. The boy's growth pattern indicated a younger age. For two, the boy was mage. That in itself was a big enough reason. Unfortunately, he couldn't just turn the boy away. He was a paying customer and he'd been looking for someone to rent the room for a while. "Make sure that you do," he said to the pale boy before turning and leaving the room with a frown. "Thanks," Naruto said in thanks, though the man failed to return the courtesy. Watching the man leaving the apartment, waiting for the telltale click of the door closing before quickly threw his bag to floor and running to the bedroom. It was nearly dawn and he didn't like the idea of staying up past nighttime. And that is a wrap. I will see you guys next time. Just to point out as a small spo, Eiler Acnologia will die in the Tartaros arc, as I never liked how that worked. Explanation: he ripped out the souls of the dragons and turned into a dragon. I don't like this idea, so I am not having it happen. So in this story the dragons are fully alive, though they are sealed inside their dragon slayers. Also, I did use some of the original writer's S.G. Cassidy's story, so that is why it is so similar. Also, Laxus will not have a power-hungry ego, just to let you know, as in this story I plan to have Ivan abandon him. Below are the spells Naruto will know: Moon Dragons, Roar, Moon Dragons, Talon, Mo, On Dragons, Wing Attack Moon Dragons, Swordhorn Moon Dragons, Crushing Fang Moon Dragons, Fang Moon Dragons, Sight Negation Moon Dragons, Moondrip Dragon Slayer's Secret Art, Death of Midnight, Eternal Flare, New Moon Rebirth Explosion, Toneri's Silver Wheel Rebirth Explosion, Full Moon Rebirth Explosion, Tonari's Golden Wheel Rebirth Explosion, but weaker. Enchantments. Claws of the New Moon enhances strength. Rage of the Half Moon enhances eyesight. Full Moon's Shield hides Naruto's presence. Crescent Moon's weightlessness enhances speed. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is up, enjoy. Al. So I am sorry for making you wait for this chapter. Summary. She found him in the arms of his dying mother, and took him in. She trained him in everything he knew and then she suddenly disappeared. W. Anting to know why he began his journey to find his missing mother, and he wouldn't stop until he found her and got the answers he wanted out of her. This is the story of Naruto Tsuki, the son of Margita, dragon of the moon and night. Follow him as he searches the world for the being that gave him everything when he had nothing. Enchantment using Naruto. Naruto X Miragen X Lisana X Ultir, 3rd generation Dragon Slayer Naruto. Tag Team Naruto and Laxus. Naruto looked at Laxus with a raised eyebrow. You want me to do what now? He asked the older blonde. Laxus chuckled. I need a partner to help me out with some training. You see, I just bought this thing and I don't know how it's going to work out. I actually wanna keep it a secret from the guild besides the old man, and you're the only one I can turn to help me out. Laxus said with a nervous chuckle. Naruto quirked an eyebrow. Okay, and what's so special about it that you need my help? Naruto asked Laxus. The older blonde looks around. ND leans in to whisper something into his ear. It's a lightning dragon slayer Lacrima, he says, surprising Naruto. Naruto looks to Laxus with wide eyes. It is? He asked. Laxus nods his head. Naruto gains a curious look. Where do you get? He asked the older blonde. Laxus smirked but motioned for Naruto to follow him, and so the two blondes ran out of the guild hall and down a road. Laxus looks to Naruto as they are running and smirks. I'll tell you now, I saw several dragon Lacrima that would work great with your own magic, he told Naruto. However, the bleach blonde dragon Slayer shook his head. I only need the one, he told Laxus. This made Laxus chuckle at what he was told. I know, but I'm just telling you what I heard, he told his good friend. They turned a corner and Laxus slowed down a walk before he led Naruto into a magic shop. Opening the door, a little bell jingled to let the owner that someone had entered. Naruto looked around and saw all kinds of magic items that he couldn't identify. But he was quickly dragged out of those thoughts when Laxus nudged him in the side to gain his attention. Naruto continued to follow Laxus until they were at the counter where an old woman sat. Looking up, the woman spoke in a raspy voice. What can I help you with today? I know I helped you, but you, however, I have never seen or spoken to, she said in a sage-like voice that spoke of her wisdom. Naruto stepped forward and cleared his throat. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, son of Mariga, the dragon of the moon and stars. I require a Lacrima that utilizes Dragon Slayer magic. To be specific, I require a one-of-a-kind dragon Lacrima that holds the power of a dragon that uses Moon Dragon Slayer magic, he told her. The old woman looked Naruto up and down before nodding her head. She then got up and walked to the back, and after several minutes of waiting came back out with a small box. Opening the small box, she showed a shimmering orb that glittered like 1,000 stars in the nighttime sky. It was both beautiful and mesmerizing to look at. She looked at Naruto and pushed the box towards him. That will be 5,500,000 jewel if you please, she said. Naruto cringed at the price, but nodded his head and pulled out the required money and paid the woman for the seriously expensive Lacrima. Naruto and Laxus walked out of the store looking at the Lacrima in wonder. Laxus couldn't help but comment. So that's what's a Lacrima for the moon and stars looks like. Mine looks like a storm cloud ready to burst, he said. Naruto smirked. You wanna help implant it inside my body? He asked his fellow blonde. Laxus shrugged. What the hell, I ain't got nothing better to do, so why not? He said as he took the Lacrima from the box and held it in his hand. A piece of paper fell out and Naruto picked it up and skimmed over the words. They were the instructions on how to implant it into the user. Naruto looked to Laxus. Hey, did you implant your dragon Lacrima or did someone do it for you? He asked the blonde man. Laxus chuckled. I acquired some money from my dad's bank account since I was running a bit low on cash, but to answer your question I had freed implant it and had him swear secrecy for the time being. Laxus said to the Moon Slayer. Naruto raised an eyebrow, but you can implant this one inside of my body, right? He asked the man, quirking a brow at the same time he asked his question. Laxus chuckled. Well, I wouldn't be here if I couldn't. From what I read on the instructions it's actually quite easy to do even if you do it on your own, he told Naruto with a grin plastered on his face. Naruto rolled his eyes at Laxus. Wow, Laxus, how mature of you. Just implant the damned lacrima already, he stated to his fellow blonde. Laxus chuckled as he did as Naruto taught it and quickly implanted the lacrima into his friend's body. When he was done Naruto looked to Laxus and coughed. So, when do the effects of this thing start to take effect? He asked his friend. Zus picked up the paper instructions and skimmed through them quickly. Finding what he wanted he scowled. Around 3 months for those who haven't been trained in Dragon Slayer magic and a week for those who have, he stated. Naruto chuckled at his friend. Well, I guess we're just going to have to draw out the Dragon Slayer magic quicker then. Come on, follow me and I'll help you become a Dragon Slayer quicker, he told Laxus as he stood up. However, a pink blur rushed towards Naruto and with a shout of, "Fight me!" Natsu was quickly batted away from the 3rd generation Dragon Slayer and the new Lee minted 2nd generation Dragon Slayer with ease, where he landed with a bump on his head and swirls for his eyes. Natsu shakily pointed to Naruto. I will defeat you, be both, and he collapsed unconscious while he was ignored by the 2 older Dragon Slayers. Naruto tried not to rub his nose in annoyance. Okay, tell me again why you want to train with me in using Lightning Dragon Slayer magic. Naruto asked as he and Laxus walked past the downed fire wizard. Laxus deadpanned. Whatever do you mean? He asked the bleach blonde wizard. Like it had been with Naruto when he had asked Laxus if there were any apartments available. It clicked for him with what Laxus was asking him. Oh, you want to provide something for the guild, he said. Laxus clapped his hands. Very astute of you, he said sarcastically to his friend. Naruto could feel his brow twitch in annoyance. You really want to play it like this, Laxus? He asked the blonde dryer, eliciting a chuckle from the man. Laxus waved his hand at Naruto. Oh come on, it's not like that. I mean, all we gotta do is just work for what we got, the man stated. Naruto shook his head at Laxus. Come on, Laxus, grow up. Besides, I have to run your ass the ground in order to get a hold of that little ability you recently acquired, Naruto said with a dark grin on his face that promised Laxus a lot of pain and suffering to come later on. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for Laxus to begin to use the power of the lightning dragon lacrima that was inside his body. Naruto had been a slave driver when he had begun teaching Laxus on how to use his newfound power. And although Laxus wouldn't admit it, the methods Naruto used were quite effective. Naruto stretched and looked at the heavily bruised Laxus with a grin. Cracking his neck, Naruto spoke. "Okay, well, I think that was a good warm-up, Laxus. How about we move on to the actual training?" he asked the Lightning Slayer. Laxus gave a groan. "I hate you," he told Naruto with a scowl upon his face. Naruto chuckled. "Well, what do you expect? You've been pushing yourself past your limits for over 3 weeks, and you've actually done better than even the best of prodigies have done, so that's saying something," he told Laxus with a grin. The man groaned. "I still hate you though. Did you have to be such a slave driver, though?" he asked the Moon Slayer. Naruto shrugged. "Not really, I was just seeing if you would do half the crazy shit I told you to do. But I will say this, you surprised me," he said to Laxus with a smirk on his face. Laxus scowled at the blonde. "Go die in a ditch, Naruto," he said, causing Naruto's grin to spread wider. Naruto walked over to Laxus and offered him a hand before pulling the lightning user to his feet. "Let's begin, Laxus, on the next phase of your training, the Dragon Force," he said, confusing Laxus. The man quirked a brow. "Dragon Force?" he questioned his friend. Naruto nodded his head. "Yeah, it's the most powerful state a Dragon Slayer can achieve before they finish their training. I mean, sure, I never got around to learning it, but that's because my mother never wanted me to learn it with her around. Says there are too many bad memories that comes with that ability, though I never could get a proper answer as to why," he admitted to Laxus. Laxus shrugged. So how do we do this? He asked Naruto. The bleach blonde shrugged. How the hell should I know? My mother only told me that a dragon slayer has to eat large amounts of magical energy in order to obtain the dragon force, he stated. Laxus pointed to Naruto. If that's the case, then why are you training me to use it when you yourself don't even know how to do it? He roared at Naruto with comically white eyes and pointed teeth. Naruto shook his fist at Laxus. It's because I want to learn it as well, and I want a partner to be with me when I do learn it, just so I can rub it in your face when I achieve it before you do, asshole. He yelled with the same expression. Laxus roared as he tackled Naruto to the ground, where the two dragon slayers began rolling around, yelling insults and trying to tear apart the other within a large cloud of dust. Naruto pinned Laxus and grabbed him around the throat with both his hands and began to strangle him while shaking his head. I'll show you what it means to be a true dragon slayer, you pompous bitch, he yelled as he continued to strangle Laxus. However, he tables turned where Laxus had Naruto in a sleeper hold. Why don't you take your pompous bitch mode and choke on it, Naruto? He yelled at Naruto with a gleam in his eye that spoke of giving pain to his friend. Naruto brought his foot up and gave Laxus a mule jick in the nuts, causing the lightning user's eyes to nearly pop out of their sockets. Naruto wrapped an arm around Laxus's throat as the blonde held his nuts in pain. How'd you like them apples, Sparky? Naruto yelled cheekily before he proceeded to give Laxus a noogie. Laxus then proceeded to launch a fist into Naruto's gut, forcing the air from his body with a oof, where he released Laxus from his grip. Naruto drew his head back and slammed it down on Laxus' own head, causing the man to crash into the ground, creating a crater from the impact. However, he soon realized what he did and clutched his head in pain with a groan. Laxus was in the same boat, except he had it worse. He had both a headache, and he had been nutted by his friend in less than 2 minutes of both events happening. Naruto looked at the downed lightning slayer and winced. How about we call that even, he asked. Laxus nodded his head, showing he could work with getting a draw from the actual dragon slayer. He would never admit it to Naruto until he got married in the future, but he kicked like a fucking horse would, not that he would like admitting it to the man. When the two had finally recovered, they both took the time to walk as slowly as possible to the guild. Upon reaching the building, they were of course questioned by everybody on why they were so beaten up. But they just ignored the people around them. After the two men had downed several bottles of beer, old enough to be in a guild, old enough to drink, they noticed Makarov standing on a table, seemingly waiting for the two to come over. Naruto and Laxus gave a shrug. Naruto sighed in annoyance. Laxus, before they made their way to the elderly man who was surrounded by other wizards of fairy tale. When the two men had stopped in front of the table, the master cleared his throat. As you all know, in 3 weeks' time the S-class promotional exams will be taking place. I have decided that this year, we will be going to the land of sun and stars, a sacred place that is known to have both starlight as well as sunlight in both the daytime, but the nighttime as well. I will announce those who will be participating in several moments, so listen up. This year for the promotion exams we have my grandson, Laxus. After him we have Mirajan Strauss and Urza Scarlet. Next we have Fried Justine, Evergreen and Bixlow. Finally we have Naruto Tasuki, he announced. Naturally, hearing his name being called was a surprise, but there was obviously more to this than what he was putting on, but he would accept it for now. Searing his throat, Makarov motioned for those who were mentioned to come forward. When they had, Makarov continued, now, this year's promotion is going to be held on the sacred Jade Mountain. This mountain is not sacred for the fact that many people climb it to learn and meditate. It is also the tallest mountain in the entire world to date. We all leave in a week. So take the time to brush up on your skills, pack, do a couple low-class jobs and enjoy yourselves until then. However, I must say this, be back a day before the exam. With that, the extremely short man jumped down and walked away. Naruto looked to Laxus and smirked. I bet you 2 to 1 there is going to be some type of trial when we arrive to the exam site, he said cheekily. Laxus shook his head. I am not betting against you again. Remember the last time something like that happened, we both ended up in the hospital for a month nearly, he said, getting a laugh from Naruto. With that, the group went to prepare for their trials and exams. When Naruto had finally packed everything away, he Knew he would need he decided to head to the land of sun and stars early to try and get a lay of land so he could learn from it as he was taught long ago by his mother. A week went by and Naruto had discovered something about his location. While it was incredibly beautiful to the eye, one could feel the amount of power this place held by just tasting a bit of the moonlight. But that wasn't the case here. He had tried to see how much he could power up from eating the moonlight before he entered the Dragon Force, and had somehow inhaled sunlight. Naturally he had choked for a bit, but when he stood up he could feel the change in his body due to eating such an element. He could feel the power of both the sun and the moon flow through him almost effortlessly, but he wouldn't reveal this power unless he had no other option but to release it. With a stretch he looked at his lacrima clock and sighed. It was way past his bedtime. Not that he had one, mind you, and with that he decided to get some rest before training more the next day. He would not allow himself to fail in becoming a S-class wizard. Laxus may becomes one before he did, but he would not stop until he had earned the proper rank worthy of his title. One Mariga would surely agree with due to his title. When he laid down, he almost immediately shut his eyes and allowed sleep to come and claim him. He would push himself past limitations that not even he was aware of the next day, and he would come up with a rather genius technique as well. Upon waking, Naruto immediately set to work on his training. He started out with his warm-up of doing magical power control to gain extra control over his magic. After that he led down for a hearty meal just to return to his training several minutes later. Gathering magic in his palm he shaped it into a powerful disc-like object before he called out, "New Moon Rebirth Explodes. Ion," and then the disc expanded into a powerful twister of energy that destroyed everything in its wake. Unfortunately it wasn't as strong as he would have liked, so he would continue to improve it to a point he deemed it satisfactory until he could easily perfect this secret art he was making in honor of his mother. He would succeed, and he would earn the title of S-rank wizard. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.